What is going on, Sports Card Fiends? We are back again with episode number 4 of Sports Card Corner. My name is Alec, or Cutting Edge Cards with no G, and I am joined by Caleb. What's going on, Caleb?
Hey, how you doing?
Caleb
I'm
_
good.
sports _ cards over on the Insta, but we are hanging out, talking some cards for, we about do it every week, but it's been a little while since the last one. On the plus side, we have recently applied to get the pod on Apple and Google, so making waves, not just YouTube and Spotify anymore, but yeah, it's on their end now. It's out of my control, but do what we can. Happy to be here. Hopefully you're happy to talk some cards, Caleb. I imagine you've had some fun watching sports the last couple weeks.
I've had so much fun watching sports, man. It's been nice.
Out of the purgatory that was COVID, and I mean, obviously still going on, but if I got some sports, that makes it all the better. So,
Yeah, if I can watch the whole slot of NFL football for oh man, that was so nice. It just felt so right. I missed it.
Yeah, bring us
Fantasy
back to reality.
football, sports cards, yeah, it felt nice.
Oh yeah, big pumped to have all that, but what we'll be talking about to start is what I guess we've been watching for, a little over a month now, and that's a little bit of NBA news. We are just coming off the end of the Clippers Nuggets game tonight, which was interesting to say the least, but we'll talk about that here in a second. We'll start with the Heat Celtics, which had game 1 tonight of the Eastern Conference Finals, and there's so much to talk about in regards to that game. Just an absolute crazy ending, overtime as well. But, I mean, what have you thought of Jimmy Butler so far? Like, I mean, card price-wise, he's absolutely just soared. I don't know if that's, something that sticks long-term. I mean, pop count-wise, he's pretty low. But, I mean, his role on the Heat's just immense, right?
I mean, yeah, again, he was so integral for Philadelphia, and he made them an instant contender. He's just such a competitor. I mean, I like the guy. He has a great, story, coming up, and just his perseverance, and I think that he just brings that to the team. It makes sense for me why he's so popular, and he's fun. He's animated, like on the court, like I love how competitive he is. He's fun. He's Russell Westbrook, except he's good.
Yeah, and understands maybe some sort of limitation. Doesn't just chuck up threes for that. I mean,
yeah,
it's tough. I mean, not the same athletically, but mentally, definitely where you want him to be.
Yeah,
and
that
I mean,
mentality. Yeah,
the stats he's putting up have been pretty decent. Like, it gives the Heat, what you need in a legitimate playoff contender, to have a guy to go to late game that you can kind of lean back on. And I mean, obviously they have some older guys there too, but
that layup was insane by him, and the 3-pointer by Gordon Dragic at the end. Like, they definitely got a squad. I mean, it's crazy. I mean,
yeah, it's
a
definitely
lot of
the
Heat
parts.
fans were talking a lot of crap at the beginning of the season, about it, and they've been justified thus far.
Yeah, they've been right the whole way, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I was, I don't know. I remember, Heat fans on Twitter, man, they're something else. They're a different breed. I don't really feel like I see another team, fans go at people that much, but they play just like the Heat do, a little chip on their shoulder, and I mean, it's nuts. His ascendance has been great. As far as his card market, the card market side of this, which obviously we like to talk about. I mean, most all of the NBA players, I feel like, even if they end up winning, are going to dip down a little bit. But I could see his card prices kind of keeping a steady price throughout the offseason. I mean, obviously they'll dip a bit, but I mean, just showing, people, I think, love his personality. Like we both do, and I think it's starting to rub off on more and more people. And if you can get to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe the Finals, it kind of solidifies where you're at, and he hasn't ever really made it to this point. So I think it's a pretty big deal for him.
Yeah, and again, there's so many question marks with the whole, Minnesota Timberwolves situation and everything, and for him to be what looks to be right and justified. I mean, I picked up some cards of his. They were dirt cheap going into the playoffs, so it was kind of an easy bet in my mind. But it's exciting. I don't know if the Heat are going to pull out this win. I still really like the Celtics in the long term, and I like that they were there. They were in control of the game most of the way. If Tatum just, tries to dunk it a little bit harder over Bam. I mean, what an impressive block, though. I mean, his cards have been steadily going up through this whole time as well. I feel like even before COVID, like his cards were going up quite a bit. So
yeah, the center's kind of getting more love.
Yeah.
Feel like definitely plays a role in it. But yeah, I mean that block by Bam obviously is going to be where everyone kind of goes back to for this game. But I mean, in general, I think that it's just the Heat. I mean, what's going to keep the Heat, and I feel like every series and what it has done so far and could do in the future is just their depth. I mean, they have so many different guys that you have to just be weary of. Like, not many teams can, like trot out 6-7 dudes that you legitimately kind of have to account for on offense. Like, there's always, one or two guys that you just throw off to the side and let the three beat you, but you don't really have that with them. I mean, they're an actual team, which is, I guess kind of a hot take in this day and age, to not just have two superstars run your team for you.
Yeah, I thought their defense, obviously they're really good at that too. And their game plan just to kind of trap Kemba, like just going off, and like it was a good game plan. And I don't know, it's going to be a really good series, and both teams just show so much effort, and it's a lot of fun. The Eastern Conference has been so much more enjoyable than it has been in years past. Oh my goodness, it was so boring. I mean, LeBron would easily come out, but I feel like the teams were definitely not as good when LeBron was there. Like,
yeah, there's definitely a lot of young stars now that are kind of making their way.
Like when DeMar DeRozan and a young Kyle Lowry was like the second best thing the East had, and DeMar DeRozan can't even get out of the he can't do anything with the Spurs. It goes to show. I mean, obviously, like, I'm just saying, like, probably the past 5 years, because before that, like, with young LeBron, like, the Eastern Conference was a blast with the Celtics and everything. But
oh yeah, it's definitely nice, and obviously, I mean, he's getting more hype now that you're seeing him do it with kind of a collective unit. But Spoelstra's getting some more love, which feels pretty justifiable. I don't know why Nick Nurse is the only coach that people talk about his game plan. They throw out like 4 different defensive layouts he used as if that's some sort of crazy thing that no other team's doing, It's like maybe spread out the love a little bit, but I'm definitely pumped to see how that series goes. And what's your guess? You say you're thinking Celtics 7 probably?
Yeah, also I'm going to go with man, does it really go 7? I'm going to go with 6. I'll go with the Celtics in 6.
Man, it's tough. Like, odds-wise, the Heat are going to be favorites after this because they were about even at the beginning of the series. But I would probably go Celtics in 7, which is just, I don't know. It's just trusting their offensive power. I think that you can, win a couple games with that alone, and then you just got to be able to will out another game or two throughout there. And, I mean, the Heat are good, but I don't I guess they haven't really relied on anyone too much so far, so I just don't know if you got that.
Yeah, I just really didn't like the Celtics' plan when they got tied at 106 before the overtime. I hated that the shot that Tatum got was a step back three-pointer. I really think that he should try to get a mid-range or a turnaround or a layup, So I think, if they do that, just give yourself a better chance to win that game, than just a fadeaway 3.
Yeah, Paul George would say that that's a bad shot. That's what he would say. And he'd be justifiably right in this case because, I mean, you don't – it definitely feels like people just settle for that as if that's, the shot they're supposed to take when
you got a full shot clock. Obviously it's 3 seconds left. That's the shot Damian had to take. But when you got 23.2 seconds to work with, can we get a better play drawn out?
It was the same shot as Luka basically. And and he didn't have a full shot clock to work with that. It's like, man. But yeah, I mean, that's I guess how we see the series playing out in terms of another series that went pretty deep that just ended tonight. The Denver and Clippers. It was definitely something. I mean, as far as which teams impressed us the most, I feel like most people would have to say Denver at this point. I mean, no one really saw this coming, and odds-wise, the Clippers were immense favorites, and especially being up 3-1. I mean, I don't know. It's absolutely stunning. What do you think going forward in terms of their potential against the Lakers? What are you thinking?
I mean, I was thoroughly shocked. I mean, I knew Jokic was good, and Jamal Murray obviously has emerged. And just to think if, like, maybe one of their other guys, like, if Michael Porter Jr. could even step up a little bit more and, like, get 20 instead of, like, that 12 range, like, I don't know. Their team is really, really good. And, I mean, Jamal Murray got 40 points tonight. Jokic got 22 rebounds. Like, oh, my gosh, just an animal. It's I don't know. I think they match up well against the Lakers, if I'm being honest. Like, with Jokic in the post, like, he's going to make things hard for Anthony Davis, And he's good. Like, I mean, he's not, like, foul prone. He gets a lot of rebounds. He's good defensively. He can pass so well. I think he had, like, 13 assists tonight as well. Like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It's just getting nutty triple-doubles.
I mean, I felt like the Clippers were the better team than the Lakers going into this playoffs. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely iffy. I mean, personally, like I'm a LeBron stan, so I'm probably thinking Denver in 6, maybe 7. I definitely think they make it a series because I mean, the Rockets kind of scared me a little bit as a LeBron stan. The game 1 obviously, and then game 2 was looking even a little scary there for a sec. So I mean, I definitely can't write off like they're just gonna blow a team out of the water because it's definitely not looking like that. But yeah, I never would have expected this out of Denver. Like personally, I sold off most of my basketball cards before the playoffs, kind of just because I didn't want to really take any risk. I was happy with a good profit, and even if I had held some of my Jamal Murray's and Jokic's, there's no way I would have held them this long into the series. Like, I would have been far out of here. Probably after the Jazz win, I would have been like, all right, well, let him go on a peak. Yeah, that's what I would have done. I could never have expected this, but I mean, when you got Jamal being able to go off like that, and the crazy part about that is, people thought like you could send Paul George and Kawhi at Luka and stop Luka, and they couldn't even. I mean, they kind of bottled him up for most of the series, but in a must-win game, they couldn't even stop Jamal. So like, man, and Lou Will's just getting torched, obviously, and try to hunt him as much as you can. But overall, Clippers defensively probably one of the best teams you're going to come up against. So to then have them do what they've done this entire series, I definitely can't write them off going forward. So I have no intentions of that, but I would probably go Lakers in 6 / Lakers in 7 as a small hedge fit if this backfires. But it's going to be fun.
I'm definitely bummed that Porzingis got hurt because honestly, they probably. I mean, it could have been a Dallas upset the Clippers, just in that series to start. Because I mean, we saw what a big guard in Luka plus a nice, big post like Porzingis could do. Yeah. Like, seeing that the Denver was able to overcome, and we saw how much they struggled against Dallas, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like Jamal Murray like stepped up so much. I'm bummed we didn't get to see that because like 2 young teams battling it out. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely could have been a fun series.
I feel like the young teams are definitely at an advantage, though, and it's felt that way this whole time. The Celtics are pretty young. Again, Denver's young. The Heat are young. Besides like Goran Dragic. I mean, Jimmy Butler's not super young, but he's not old. He's not an old vet by any means. So.
Yeah, it's mostly young guys, and I mean defensively, like the Lakers, obviously, AD and Jokic is going to be a sick matchup. I mean, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah,
and
I'm
then,
pumped.
What was that?
I said, yeah, I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to see how. I mean, ideally, AD should take over as a LeBron stan. That's what I'm hoping for. But at the same time, he didn't really take over in the Rockets series, where that was just gifted to him on a platter. So it's tough to believe that that's going to be the case. And then on defense for the Lakers, obviously you can send LeBron at whoever you want, but there's still, you got Jamal Murray and then potentially Michael Porter Jr. has just been sick offensively. Everyone still roasts his defense, but I legitimately feel like his defense is getting better. Like, he's not always.
He's played like 10 games.
Yeah, he's getting used to it. The man's got length, and it just comes down to determination. And obviously, you got to understand some things in terms of where to rotate and what's going on defensively. But everyone. I mean, and it's just like everyone says it, man. There's not one person that's ever said Michael Porter Jr.'s. I mean, even not bad. Like everyone I talk to about Michael Porter just throws out that he's bad on defense, as if like that's just gonna stay forever. It's like the dudes are rookie. Tons of people are bad.
Yeah, playoff basketball is just so different. And
and they're going up against the best of the best too. I mean, ever since the restart, it's only been the best teams.
You guard Lou Williams and see how easy it is. Like he's a veteran who can score in any way, or Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. Like those are three of like elite scorers in the NBA. Cut the kid some slack.
Yeah, it's tough. But that poster was something, man. Oh my God, ended Montrell's life. Great to see. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be fun, and obviously I'm excited for it. And as far as how these playoffs play out, who knows? But I feel like no matter what, we're going to get a great finals. I mean, there's just no way you can go wrong at this point.
Yeah, it's been really, really fun basketball all around, like the NBA playoffs always are. And I mean, I love all these Game 7s. What a blast.
Yeah, but as a little reminder, just before we hop on out of basketball, just because, we're talking about it, we're having fun with it, definitely, we would both not recommend buying at this time. I mean, we say it all the time.
Anybody who's playing, don't buy.
Yeah, if people are still playing, that's just a reason. I mean, if you look at the overall NBA card market, it's definitely starting to dip. Like, even players that are still playing like a LeBron, his card's fallen 30% since the peak, maybe even 40, and obviously he still has a great shot to win, so that just shows you that if these guys weren't in there, how far could they drop? It's definitely not something you want to be a part of on that dip, because you never know where it's going to end, and we'll talk more about that in a later segment. But moving on to football, I mean, and like we said, just a wonderful football-filled Sunday. Nothing better than having your day planned from 1 o'clock until 11. Basically, you just have the best time imaginable. It's just it was a fun time. But it all started, of course, on Thursday night with the Chiefs and the Texans. Personally, I was hoping and thinking that would be more of a game than it was. As someone with a decent amount of Deshaun Watson cards, I was thoroughly disappointed. But I mean, overall, the game it ended up getting a little closer, but the Chiefs showed just a ton of promise. Like, they just picked up exactly where they left off. And the most important addition, obviously, is the Clyde Edwards-Helaire addition, which was, just looking absolutely beautiful at running back, right?
Yeah, I picked him on my fantasy team early. I reached a little bit. I was big pumped for him. Just a guy like who's coming out of LSU who could catch and run the ball. And they only targeted him twice, which I was kind of surprised with. They just really were handing him the ball. So I think like he's even going to open up his playbook like later in the year as well. Mm-hmm. It's going to be pretty exciting. But yeah, Deshaun Watson was desperately missing a wide receiver one the whole game, and that was just clear. Will Fuller is a nice piece, but he's not a wide receiver one. And when you're throwing to Kenny Stills and like there's some bad catches or drops, it was clear they were missing DeAndre Hopkins bad, and so that was just tough.
Definitely gonna be a glaring hole in their offense. And you can grab a nice little running back in David Johnson, but it's like, you could get running backs everywhere. Like, they're one of the most disposable positions. And Houston's been roasted for this trade just endlessly, and it didn't seem like DeAndre was really working, I guess, like chemistry wise. So I understand that they kind of had to do it.
This season.
Yeah.
For 1,400. His 1,400 yards like clockwork is working okay.
Yeah, this is just going to be a rough season for, I guess, any Bill O'Brien truthers that might still be out there. I doubt there are many. But, yeah, they're probably not going to have a great time. And I did kind of hear something that seemed a little interesting to me, like the idea of them handing the ball off more just so it doesn't seem like they absolutely got destroyed in that trade might be something that happens. I don't know how often you can run it if you're losing, but I mean, anything I guess to save face there would probably be the way to go because it's going to look pretty bad. I mean, especially if DeAndre Hopkins is doing what he's been doing, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about over in Arizona. I mean, obviously, the upset win against the Niners, I mean, definitely a big upset. I don't think many people were, drawing that one up.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I think it's kind of deceiving personally. Like, Kittle goes out and is hurt. Ayuk's hurt. And another wide receiver of theirs is hurt too. So I felt like, I don't think that's the best Niners we saw. But still, for the Arizona Cardinals to take advantage was still pretty impressive.
No, yeah, I'm definitely a big fan. And I mean, Kyler's running ability, like, it's been mentioned in the past, but it is absolutely disgusting. I mean, the man can big move. It is no joke what he's doing over there. So if you're holding those cards, I'd be pumped for you. If you're buying them right now, maybe a little late on the train, but I mean, you're going to have fun watching him nonetheless, whether or not you buy now or if you bought before, because he's nasty. He's just absolutely sick. So
his way to keep his body safe while running, I mean, like, that gets me so hyped. Like, if you're a person who's big on investing in him, he slides really well, and he does not take hits, which is smart because he shouldn't, because he's not big at all.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, obviously that touchdown run was fantastic, but just the way that he can keep his body safe, like, that's an exciting thing for longevity for Kyler Murray, and just big brain all around. And yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, that's an exciting thing. I mean, for him to grab 152 receiving yards, I was unsure on how he'd do. And especially, like, we know the 49ers are one of the best defenses. That secondary is no joke. And for him to still do what he does, like, whoo. I can see why his cards have been spiking as much as they have, because it looks like he's not going to be slowing down in Arizona.
Yeah, definitely next level. And, I mean, even if you don't believe in Arizona as a team, you still, I mean, that's all the more reason that he'd be running and passing even more. So it's like, it's a win-win, really. If they do well, he looks good because he's on a winning team. And if he doesn't do well, then he's just going to kill the stat book and people will still be pumped. So I don't really think there's a way to go wrong. But, I mean, interesting as far as the Niners go. I don't really think you could take too much away, like you said, injuries. And, I mean, they played Arizona close last year, honestly. It was, I mean, there was an Arizona comeback laced in there a little bit, but still, their results last year were never too far off. So I could just imagine how pissed the other teams in that division are seeing Arizona with Hopkins. That's probably the very most disappointing thing to see. I mean, it's got to be tough.
I mean, and they paid him right away too, like $102 million in like 5 or 6 years or whatever.
Oh,
They're like, we're gonna take you, and you're gonna be here. Thank you.
keep them with you. But speaking of probably, I mean, something else that was just as riveting to watch for one reason or another, depending on where you stand. The Bucks and Saints game this week was obviously. A little interesting. I guess not Bucks haters. I don't really think there's too many of those, but for Tom Brady haters, there's a little bit you can take away from this game, because he's definitely, Tom's never looked that great early in the year, especially when he hasn't worked with his receivers too much. So as a Tom Brady stan, since I'm a Michigan fan, I'd kind of throw that out there, but still, it was not a great performance, and he's currently on pace to match Jameis's 30 for 30. So, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. 30 interceptions on the year, and then Jameis is on the same tier as Tom Brady. Who would have thought? It's that easy.
There's no way. I mean, Tom Brady, he doesn't turn the ball over that much. Man, it's I don't know. The Bucs seem like a team like that. They are going to start off slow, and the Saints looked so good. I mean, their defensive front looked like Cam Jordan, like he looked amazing. And I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into it. If you have a buddy that's a big Tom Brady fan, I wouldn't roast him too much unless you want to eat your words a little bit later. I think they're still, I don't know, a 10-11 game, win team. And I don't think I don't think many people had them beating the Saints this week 1. Like you're at the benefit early in the season if you're a coach and you've had a system for a long time like the Saints. That's definitely gonna help, especially in this early goings with the shortened off season. New head coaches, new systems. Like Bucks are definitely at a disadvantage.
Yeah, definitely what I took away from this. I mean, one of Brady's picks was one where Evans wasn't even on the same page as him, and he just, lobbed it over his head like 10 yards, and it was just the cleanest pick you could imagine. And then the other pick was a pick 6, which is definitely Jameis-esque, but, I mean...
It was a bad throw.
yeah, definitely bad, but, the first pick probably wasn't his fault, and then the pick 6, it's just as bad as it could go for a pick. So if you kind of average those out, by week 10, he's not throwing that same pick to Evans. And maybe there's pick 6 is sprinkled in, but this one about as poorly as it could pick wise. And I mean, honestly, offensively they look pretty good early on, so I don't know. I think that the game's probably closer than most people imagine, and if you're having that close of a game early in the season against the Saints, I mean, that doesn't feel like anything too bad. So I definitely would agree. I think it's still an upward trajectory. If you're throwing away the season just after that, like, I don't know what you expected, honestly. Like an undefeated team, I don't know.
That was not going to happen. I mean, they cut it down to it was like a 17-point lead, and they got it back down to like 7 in the third quarter. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, they got a chance here. So, I mean, they're going to be just fine. The Saints, that's a tough poll, especially at the it was an away game too. So.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm not all too worried, but talking about another quarterback in Brady's old division, we have Josh Allen and the Jets going at it this weekend. It was, I mean, it started off as kind of a blowout. Jets ended up bringing it back a little bit, and obviously Jets are a little banged up too, but Allen put on a good performance overall. I think 3 touchdowns total, and ran the ball pretty well, and obviously he's going to make some pretty errant throws, but that seems to be the Josh Allen special, have a good stat line, but have a few just ones where you're scratching your head. What do you think of his performance overall?
I mean, yeah, he's super exciting. He's fun to watch, and the Bills are just really good. They have a great defense, probably one of the best defensives in the NFL, and they added Diggs, and that looked nice. I think that's only that relationship's only going to get better as the year progresses. But I also think the Jets are really, really bad.
yeah, I think that's a bigger takeaway from all this.
Yeah, I think they might be the worst team in the NFL. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm excited about Josh Allen, and he's a lot of fun. And obviously, again, if you buy his cards last year, I think that was a pretty heads-up play. I mean, I think they're going to win some games. They're going to win a lot of games this year, and they're going to be definitely in the playoffs, I would assume. So,
yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, prospects going forward, season looks good, especially with the added wild card spot. That would make all the more reason that the Bills are going to make it if, things even go south. They still have that little safety net. So I would imagine we'll see them in the playoffs. And if you're going to hold on to some cards, the playoffs is obviously probably the time you're looking to sell if you're looking for a quick flip. So if you can basically, I mean, I'm not going to say the Bills are a guaranteed playoff team because that's a crazy, that's a pretty outlandish thing to do. But I'd say it's good odds. So you're feeling good after week 1, no doubt, even if it is just the Jets. But moving on to, I guess, kind of a lesser team, not of the Jets ilk, but we got Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. They took on the, I guess, not San Diego, but Los Angeles Chargers over the weekend, where Tyrod was starting with kind of a crazy thing to see. Getting flashbacks of him on the Bills throwing pick 6s all day. So it was a good time, but Joe Burrow overall, I thought looked pretty good. Obviously, he had kind of just the crazy, like shuffle pass, fucking interception, which is not exactly what you're looking for. If you hated a guy, you could definitely roast him for it. But overall, looked good, and since he has tons of weapons, I mean, so I could see him doing good things this year, even if it hasn't started out, I guess, ideally. But they definitely kept it a game, which you're looking to see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'd hope to put up more points, but the Chargers do have a really good defense. So especially their back 7 are pretty good. So yeah, that secondary is nice. He looks good. I mean, obviously, like, it's nice his cards come out. Like, he didn't have an amazing week. I don't know if I don't think his cards really shot up too much. If you're a big Joe Burrow believer, I don't think this just scares you away. And, if that keeps his card prices kind of at a downturn, if you were kind of excited about him, it's not a crazy pull. Because, there's some new card stuff coming out. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think you might want to wait a little if you're looking to buy. Just so early.
He's not going to make the playoffs, so.
Yeah, not in that division.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, Pittsburgh could go sideways. The Browns, I'm already counting off as sideways, so
maybe they win 8 games and maybe they do. I don't at this point.
Yeah, but that's best case scenario. It's looking so.
Yeah, they win 9 games to make the playoffs.
Feels pretty safe.
But he's definitely exciting, and I don't know.
Yeah,
the jury's still out, but I think he'll be okay. I'm not blown away, but again, for most rookie quarterbacks, they struggle through year 1. That's not like super easy. Like they'll do like some crazy stuff, but like throughout the year, like they'll be good, but they're not going to be.
Yeah, they're not going to blow your socks off by any means, I wouldn't imagine. You're not going to be sitting here at the end of the year regretting it. Like, why didn't I buy before he went up 3-5x? Like, you're definitely going to have tons of chances to buy in. So just, take it slow with anyone in year 1 or 2, because odds are, that's where a lot of the hype money's going. And you don't want to be where the hype money's at, ideally.
Buy now, buy in the hype.
Yeah, invest 100 fire emoji. We all know the deal. But going on to someone else that I guess is kind of gone up 3 to 5x, but for entirely different reasons, and that's Cam Newton. Obviously, got the starting job over at the Patriots, and they didn't have, I guess, necessarily the best game score-wise with the Dolphins, but I mean, behind that, it definitely looked like it could have been worse. They had kind of a pick when they were going down and starting to drive, and once you kind of put the Dolphins down a couple scores, it could only kind of roll from there. So I felt like it was pretty lucky to keep that game as close as it was. But Cam overall, I mean, we're obviously talking more about the good quarterbacks because we could spend all day talking about bad ones and have no fun, but I thought Cam looked pretty good, and obviously with how Brady looked on the Bucs, I would imagine Patriots fans are pretty happy to be in this spot. I couldn't imagine it going any better, honestly, throughout the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, though, if you flip-flop the games, I think the Saints do the same thing to the Patriots, and the Bucs do the same thing to the Dolphins. But, I mean, because it's just who you play. Again, it's exciting, though. I mean, Cam Newton, he's a super popular player. I saw that TV ratings were like crazy high for his game. Obviously, like he led his team to a Super Bowl, was 15-1 and won an MVP at one point, and just got kind of plagued with some injuries. And I don't know, it's not easy coaching mobile quarterbacks. It's exciting for the Patriots and like Bill Belichick to kind of take on a different system. It's a lot of fun to watch, and obviously Cam Newton is one of those players that has star power. So. Obviously, like, it's no surprise that when he went to the Patriots, his card prices went up like crazy. He's a lot of fun, and he's going to learn some stuff with Bill Belichick. And again, he was playing some of his better football before he got injured, like with the Panthers. Like he was throwing like 60%, which was like better than the usual. So I don't know. He walked so Lamar Jackson can run. So, he's very, very similar, except bigger and stronger than Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Maybe a little less fast, but.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not really for buying quarterbacks at this point. I feel like you already should have stocked up. But, Cam's cards, honestly, whenever it got announced that he was going to the Patriots and whatnot, they went up 3 to 5x, which, honestly, a lot of hyped players already you went up 3 to 5x without any other news during the offseason. So,
yeah.
While I may not be, hyped on, I guess, his long-term potential, if you're looking for a nice little flip, like I definitely think Patriots have playoff potential, especially in that division. So, if you're looking at the Patriots in the playoffs with Cam as a quarterback and, being as, I guess, kind of flashy as he is and just kind of a likable personality on a team that I guess wasn't likable for a while because of, the inherent, dynasty that's kind of been broken up, I think there's a little bit of potential for a flip there if you're looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe nobody else picked up him. I mean, think of even the Chargers. Instead of Tyrod Taylor, you would have picked up Cam Newton.
The Bears.
The Bears. Honestly, both of those teams with good defenses, you're probably a playoff team. But the Patriots do it, and again, they have a good defense, not really anything on offense. They pick up Cam Newton, and now it's they're probably in the playoffs. So
yeah.
It's silly to me, especially when they got him for so cheap. So.
Yeah, it's nutty. You just sit back, be patient, and let the league do its thing, I guess. And just teams that just miss on players that are proven out, and just go with guys that
let's draft a guy that's gonna suck.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll win 4 games.
Let's go with Mitch for year 3. I'm sure this time it's gonna work. I swear. He's gonna do it. It's okay. I mean, all right. We can watch back the same story. Obviously, Mitch. Started off looking terrible. Led the comeback, but it's man, if you're going down 3 scores to the Lions, I'm not. Even if you come back, I'm not that impressed. I don't know, especially with the team around him. But yeah, I think to take away from football this week, just looking around at kind of card prices in general, even guys like Davante Adams that have just an absolutely explosive week. I mean, their cards, and I don't know if it's expected or not to be expected, but they don't really pop like NBA cards have been popping. Now, granted, NBA's been in the bubble; it's kind of playoff time, but still, playoff cards just pop for one performance in a 7-game series. One game in football, obviously, is 16th of the season, maybe a 20th of the season. That is a huge sample size relative to the season, and.
Yeah,
Davante Adams might go up 70%, which is sick, but you got to hope that you hit that one guy on a team that's going to do really, really well in a week, and then the best case scenario, you're getting 70%, which is obviously good, but when you compare that to what Luka cards will do or Zion cards will do if he ever had a good series or a good few games, TJ Warren, his cards just shot up 5-10x off of just being a baller for a week, which is essentially what Davante Adams or people of that ilk have been doing this week. So I think it's more of a slow boil. You kind of just have to more so if your flipping strategy is to go for obviously nice kind of quick flips, I think you just have to rely more on season total stats more than a week-to-week basis. I'm not sure if you'd agree, but I think that's probably where people should be.
I mean, again, you should have been buying football cards. I was, in that March, April, May zone, kind of in when the NBA finals and playoffs are usually happening. That's when you should be kind of looking at football cards because all the eyes are on basketball at that time and all the excitement. And so that's kind of the time that you'd be buying, football cards. And, if you look at the charts, that's the time where there's no movement. They're really stagnant. Nothing's happening. And then, as you kind of get closer to football, they start ramping up. And here we go. I mean, I do think, I remember with those rookie quarterbacks, good performances, there is jumps. Like last year with Lamar, there was some big jumps. Gardner Minshew, there was big jumps last year. So it will happen, but it's mostly just quarterbacks that's going to be the case. Maybe CeeDee Lamb because he's a Cowboy and Cowboys fans are rabid. I think that could possibly happen. But those would be my guesses. So, maybe Joe Burrow can really jump up. I mean, I remember Baker as well. Baker Mayfield, when he started winning games, his cards flew through the roof too. So I don't know. It's definitely your best case scenario would be if. Drew Lock did crazy stuff last year when he went 4-1. Say he ran out, he did something similar to that, or any of those quarterbacks that you kind of believe in. I think Josh Allen, say he keeps that up for a few games, we could see some stuff, or a Cam if the Patriots really keep rolling. But
No.
yeah, but I think for those skill position players, like it's just kind of there was that jump because sports cards had a tick. I don't know if we're gonna continuously see that though. I think that was more just a market correction.
Yeah, no, I agree, and yeah, I think long-term people aren't going to be, and they never have really been as high on running backs and positional players and all that type of stuff. So I could definitely see the jumps being a bit higher with quarterbacks, and obviously, like we say, card prices are eyeballs essentially. So people are going to be focused on quarterbacks, and even if you see a positional player do well, it's not like the same amount of eyeballs are going to go there for any reason. So I definitely agree. It seems more like a slow boil. And a little shout out just for our flops of the week with Baker and Sam Darnold as well. Pretty rough to see. Oh man,
Yeah,
if you've been buying
Odell.
those cards on a 5-6 times bump, if you were buying them going into week 1, you already missed the hype train. Now you're gonna have a nice little ride downward, it would seem.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I didn't think Baker was a bad purchase, but man, when you go through another coaching change and you have a short time again, like,
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's looking tough. I mean, that game especially, and Odell obviously getting pissed, and I think rightfully so. I mean, Baker definitely misses him on a ton of routes where he's going to be open because Baker's ideal play is to get the ball out just as quick as possible. Sometimes he likes to run around and do a little something, but he's not anywhere near as accurate then, and it's just he's not efficient in what I think Odell is going to need from him. And then you got the the drama starting already in week 1. I mean, it's not a
Odell a prima donna? Never.
yeah. Who would have thought? I've never seen this before, but
Again, he's another person. Like if he were to be having an insane year in the Browns, Odell cards could go insane.
yeah, they'd be dumb. That definitely is one positional player I'd agree on. Like just because his personality's bigger than receiver.
Exactly. Imagine if he would have had like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like his cards would have gone dumb.
Yeah, definitely agree. So maybe if you you want a quick flip after Odell cards drop first couple weeks, you grab those, and maybe he has a big game. It's hard for Baker to have a big season if it starts off slow, but I don't think I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about. I think for quarterbacks that consistently have good games, their cards probably just keep trending up, and whenever they have a good game, people are more excited about it. But when like Baker's been having a bad season, it's hard for those cards to just jump off of one game because still a bad season, still a ton of non-believers at that point. But for a receiver, you can always kind of say it's the quarterback's fault, not his. So when he has a good game, you can buy in more, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. I wish football. I mean, I'm glad to see numbers go up. I mean, Travis Kelce's and Tyreek Hill, like a lot of the players that should probably have some more money behind them, or DeAndre Hopkins. Like, I think that's exciting. Julio Jones. I'm glad those position players are getting some love. I definitely think there still is room, maybe. Mm-hmm. But it's just really about, how many really like NFL fans is there collecting cards, and that's kind of the big question. And, is Prism going to be like the mainstay for football? Like, that's interesting too. Like,
yeah, Prism's leaked everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's definitely something to keep an eye out for. But what we've been keeping an eye out for a while, usually we talk about it first because, we're kind of USMNT national team stands. Yeah, definitely some stands here. But this weekend we got, I guess, we got kind of teased with the Pulisic returning. We saw some videos of him at the training ground looking pretty good. He got the number 10 shirt for Chelsea as well, which is, just big pumped. All the clips, I don't know if you saw, there's like a Jurgen Klopp clip of him talking about Pulisic that was out over the week. That was just beautiful to watch. Yeah, Lamps was talking about him too, just hyping him up. And I mean, my God, like I needed to be any more hyped about him. So getting some validation from, just legend coaches over there in the Prem is, all I needed to be even more excited. And
I haven't stopped buying him, which
yeah,
I think that could lead to our Instagram plug.
Yeah.
I posted a pretty tasty little National Treasures Christian Pulisic, and Pablo and I.
Nickname's Pablo on the streets. That's what people call me. But yeah,
Alec and
for the
I
homies.
are posting that heat on the Instagram. So
Yeah.
we've paid the big bucks.
What's your Insta? Plug it real quick for me.
Yeah, it's Caleb _sports_cards_, and you can see tons of heat and what we're purchasing, because we do throw the quiche at cards. We do put our money where our mouth is.
Definitely been splashing on soccer cards. I mean, my Instagram page, honestly, for like the last 2 months has been mostly soccer, just because I've just been stocking up. I still have a ton of cards, obviously, that I haven't posted, just absolute ton laying around. But soccer's been what's flowing in. Posted a nice little Zlatan Rookie World Cup sticker today, which was
nice.
Yeah, I've been having it laying around for a bit. I love nothing more, but that's at Cutting Edge Cards on Insta. No G in the cutting, so you can check those out. Both of the links, if you're watching on the YouTube, will be in the description down below, and on any other pod players, they'll be in the description, so you can check that out. But yeah, definitely throwing heat over there.
I couldn't help myself. After I was so hyped to get that Christian Pulisic.
It goes on the Insta immediately.
Yeah, I opened the package, I took the picture, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's definitely the place to be. I mean, whenever, I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but when you see how many Lucas are in the market and how much people are willing to spend on that, and then we can just go and get soccer U.S. men's national team players that'll be in the World Cup in 2 years or a year and a half even, and then in another World Cup hosted here in 5.5 years, it's like, man, it feels like a steal, man. It really does. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, we are literally, we can't wait, and it's just like, we know the excitement is going to be there, and it's going to be insane. It's just people literally don't know. It's not on the radar. ESPN doesn't really talk about it, mostly because of TV contracts, because CBS has the Premier League. Could you imagine if Christian Pulisic, though, was an ESPN, like if the Premier League was ESPN, we would be
They'd
fed
be pumping him. Oh my God, he'd be on so many Sports Center interviews. He'd be doing them weekly after every game. He comes on there, hangs out for a bit. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot kind of driven by contracts, and they definitely, I mean, all the networks are buying more into soccer. So, if they're putting their big money where their mouth is, I guess, I may as well follow, because, I mean, I'm all about it. And if I can see the progress higher up the chain, I am even more pumped. But something we're both a little pumped about as well. Nice little Gio Reyna start over the, I guess it was Monday, so not over the weekend, but got to see him play in the German Cup. Had a nice little goal. It was a heavily deflected goal that may not legitimately be his, but we take it any way we can get it. And seeing him start for Dortmund, even if personally, I love the guy. He's absolutely sick, especially at 17. But it seems like when Royce is back to full fitness, that he'll probably be taking the spot, I would imagine. But nonetheless, I mean, they're going to be playing tons of games throughout the year and just have an absolutely packed schedule, especially post-COVID. So he's going to get tons of minutes. And to be getting tons of minutes at 17 for the second best team in Germany, I mean,
hype.
Yeah, I don't know what else you need to know. And honestly, like card price wise, he's more expensive than Pulisic, really. So I think that shows you. I mean, and Gio Reyna is kind of a name that's been heavily out there, and I feel like compared to almost any other soccer player, and that's how much people are getting into that now. So if you start digging, I think there's so many good players that you could be getting that could be, playing big minutes for us on a national stage eventually, which is just so exciting.
Yeah, and again, he's young too, and again, if he gets started over and he kind of gets buried for a second, because Pulisic, even when he was on Dortmund, it wasn't right away that he was doing the Christian Pulisic things that he was doing. I mean, it was, but just in kind of spurts. So, and his cards even kind of cooled down. I hope they do, but man, I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of where we've been, just looking at Gio Reyna's top Chrome prices and just being like, man.
Do we pull the trigger?
Yeah, it's one of those, I mean, we try to tell people not to buy off hype, but the dude's insane. I'm hoping, personally, I guess not for his development, but for my potential purchase. I'm hoping he gets buried on the bench just for a few months, maybe gets plays here and there, and then eventually just kind of breaks through, maybe gets a transfer somewhere, and during that dip, hopefully we can buy, because we've been waiting, man.
Dude, I
so
mean, yeah,
patient.
Since Topps Chrome came out, we've been looking at those cards, so.
Yeah, and they've kind of taken off, but they haven't even started the league, so we'll see where he ends up starting and if he does there. But as far as other people that might be on a little transfer, we got Reggie Cannon, 22-year-old right back from FC Dallas. A little older, obviously. We're dealing in like 17, 19-year-old range, but even at 22, it looks like he could be a potential player for the U.S. men's national team, and he went from FC Dallas to Boa Vista, which is a Portuguese Tier 1 like league team. So pretty exciting. As far as like, it was a record club signing. Like for them, it wasn't a crazy transfer fee, but I mean, you know, if a Portuguese team in the top league is willing to, you know, break the bank for you, it's definitely promising and a good sign going forward that we're getting some of our U.S. guys that are in the MLS to be sold on over to Europe. So yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's nice to see all these guys get over there and, you know, validate themselves, because before this, everyone thought we were a bunch of chumps over here in the U.S. because we couldn't get anyone to start anywhere, man.
Yeah,
so tough.
Now we're loaded, baby. I mean, it just shows, like, again, dude, MLS, start paying more money. Please, Louise, stop being just, a D-level club. Just the absolute, like...
Yeah, they incentivize teams basically to not spend, like the way it's built. Like they try to pump up, they try to make the non-spenders, you know, be more competitive. So they basically just holding back their league. There are definitely some superpower clubs that are just holding back money that if they were given the go, they'd spend like there's no tomorrow. And they might, you know, it might end up being like the Prem, where you got like 5 or 6 teams that are almost consistently, you know, the teams, but like there's nothing bad about that. Yeah, that would be fun. I'd be pumped. I'd rather see that than a competitive league with no one, you know. Yeah, I mean, obviously some talent, but yeah, you get the idea.
Few and far between, and when they do, they get signed off to Portuguese leagues.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, please, 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 just spend the money. I mean, just imagine if we could get like, even like, you know, B-list soccer celebrities over here. Oh my gosh, it'd be so fun. Or like if we could, like, you know, in a world where we could have got like Messi to play on LA Galaxy and Ronaldo, like, you know, on like
I don't even care retirement league or not. I'll take it. You know, doesn't matter to me as long as I can see it, man. And I mean, it can grow the brand here so much. So
yeah, we need deeper pocketbooks in the MLS.
No, big agree. I'm definitely pumped about that. But speaking of big pockets, we'll head on over to our Rising Stocks players. You know, little hype boys that most of the time we're not buying, but we like to mix in maybe one or two every now and then that we feel a little confident about. So as far as one of the rising stocks of the NBA, we'll start with Jason Tatum. Obviously, a great youngster over at the Celtics. I don't need to hype him up anymore. Being the mainstay guy for an Eastern Conference Finals team is pretty exciting. But as far as buying or selling, I could guess probably where you're gonna go with this. But what would you be doing, Caleb? What are you thinking?
I'm in the neutral. I'm in the holding.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wait and see. What are you looking for? What are you waiting for?
Well, I mean, I bought a bunch before. You'll hear Pablo and Alec and I say that quite a bit.
Yeah, you gotta always buy early.
But yeah,
preach.
I stocked up. I sold a few. I mean, during these playoffs, like I sold like a few of the cards just to kind of, because they went up so much. I made all my money back and then some profit, and I kind of just sat on the rest. I don't know. For me, it's just like I'm waiting because I think they can win the championship. And I've sold off some, so I think that it's worth the bet. And even if not, I think he's gonna win a championship eventually. So I'm holding at this point. But if you haven't sold yet, I think, and you have invested some, I think now is as good a time of any to sell. So.
Yeah, I definitely think, long-term potential-wise, like, Tatum is definitely there. Like, he doesn't get talked about, and he's not at the same level as Luka right now, but, like, I don't think that it would be that crazy to think that he could get there. Like, he's he's definitely sick, and I think there's more of a market team-wise, obviously, for the Celtics rather than the Mavs. I guess the NBA is more of a player-driven league at this point, but still, the markets play a big deal. It's all about what you see. It's all about what's on TV, and I definitely think he could, start to shine there. I mean, personally, I don't have any Jason Tatum, so I can't really speak from experience, but I'd probably be selling, but I'd be selling with the intention of buying back 2-3 months in the offseason. And even then, I wouldn't feel 100% confident by any means that he's not going to win. And if he, I definitely think that rookies, or not rookies, but rookie cards of third year, fourth year guys for, that are winning a championship, I don't think that they bounce too much. But with Jason Tatum, I could definitely see that bounce coming a little bit more than others, because people have been kind of high on him for a good bit. And if he got a ring to put with that already this young, it's pretty telling of what could come. So I'd be selling, but like you did, if you had a good bit of them, I wouldn't be selling the whole horde. I'd be letting off a few just in case things go sideways. I can say I got some money out of it, but I'm not as sold on selling. In terms of, I guess, going from one Celtic to another, completely different eras, but Larry Bird, 1981 Topps, kind of the first little solo card of his. Obviously, you got the Tri card from the year before, but these cards have absolutely been killing it lately. And I mean, I don't really know if I have to say much else than that. I mean, his first year cards are basically just at insane prices now and kind of following what the modern market's done. The second year card's kind of a nice alternative, and being his first little solo card, people are pretty pumped about that. So would you be selling, buying, holding? What do you think?
Again, on this list, I I picked this card up a few months ago as well. This is a card I really, really liked. I also picked up his rookie card. I really I like the Celtics a lot growing up, and Larry Bird's definitely dope. So I don't know. This card was sweet. I didn't realize it was his first solo card, but then thinking back, the rookie, he only was on triple cards for rebound leaders, and that was kind of scoring and stuff. So I picked it up, and it's really cool. I think don't pick it up. I mean, it's tough. I'd say because it's 1981, those higher grades are the ones that are really popping off. If you get it just kind of below, whatever the crazy jump off price is, I think 8s and 9s. If you just pick it up at a 7 or a 6, I don't think you'd be hurting yourself there. And I still think there's tons of room to grow. It's a really cool card. So anything that's just well centered, I think, and it's a really sweet card though. Magic Johnson's is really cool too in that same year. So
yeah, both definitely pretty hype. I would definitely agree in terms of that. They've taken off, but we've done, we don't talk about Pokemon really much on here. Maybe at some point we'll kind of include some thoughts that we have, or maybe do a break off pod whenever times are tough and not a lot's going on. But kind of what we do over there, whenever you see a PSA 9 or 10 taken off, and you can still get the 8s or 7s insanely cheap. If you believe in the card long term, eventually those 8s and 7s will be desirable and they'll jump accordingly. But they usually kind of lag behind because, people are focused on what they can afford right now. But eventually, if they can't afford that, they'll be pushed onto 7s and 8s. They'll have the demand that they should have, and you'll be in a good spot. And, I mean, even those cards, already being almost 40 years old, there's obviously not going to be more and more of them showing up. So you can have that potential long term. And like you said, super cool, just a really nice looking set. So just having them, they're, when you compare basketball vintage prices to basketball modern, it's
it's a
definitely makes sense to me. So I'm big pumped about that.
I'd say I picked up a lot of that set too. I picked up Dr. J, Magic, Larry, who else was in that? Kareem. There's all that whole Topps 81 set, I think, was super slick looking. I love the font and the almost the comic book looking Starburst thing that's with all their names. It's sweet. So I definitely think I'm high on that set as a whole. So if there's any players you like from that era, I think it's a definite swoop.
Good buy if you can find a price that works for you. But going on to a little bit more modern stuff, we have another basketball player that's kind of taken off, and actually a rookie this year, so probably more hype than, I guess, warranted. But Tyler Hero has kind of been a name people have been absolutely pumped about. I mean, in terms of his production, it hasn't been anything crazy, but just, the skill and ability that he's shown, and just the just determination to be a bucket himself. It's just, it's something you like to see out of a rookie, and especially on a team where if he grows into a bigger role, like it's kind of like Michael Porter Jr., the spot's open for him. If he wants to take over at some point, it could definitely work out for him. So what do you think of the cards right now?
Man, was this just like a humble brag for Caleb?
Yeah, I just get to shout out all the cards you bought before. Yeah. I mean, that's what we do. You gotta buy early. You can't be buying now. That'd be
I bought a ton of Tyler Hero. I love this kid out of high school. Like his high school highlights were like viral on YouTube. So I was watching all those games like a few years back, I guess. Now what is that like? Two years ago, not even that long ago, 2 years ago when he was in high school. Dude, I mean, his stuff, he was so awesome. So and his prisms were like $1, $2, like at the beginning of the year. So,
jeez.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, obviously now it's been sell because it's easy money, but I don't know. I love the kid, especially. I mean, so I got in cheap, as now I keep saying in this section. Yeah, I'm a genius.
That's nice. You get to give your actual opinions. These ones that you've lived through. So it's pretty applicable at least.
Yeah, I mean the Larry Bird I'm keeping. I'm never. Yeah, I don't know if I said that. I'm just. Yeah. I'd buy or hold. I think those things are sick. Maybe again wait for a little bit of a dip, like wait till the off season, but super cool card. And Tyler Hero I think's the same way, but man, he had a great game. I think he had like 14 points in this first game, like hitting threes. He's a bucket.
Just looking, bucket. Exactly, and he said it himself, he's a bucket. So I big agree. I mean, he's just relentless. And I mean, as far as buy or sell, I don't think the Heat are winning, and even if they do, I don't think it's on the back of Tyler Hero. So I don't think he's going to get a ton of buzz. And pop counts obviously are a thing you gotta have to worry about a little bit. But yeah, I think just like most things basketball, once the market chills out, it's definitely someone I would be interested in buying. And if you really believe in the Heat, as much as I try to warn people not to buy during hype times, I don't think he's so overly hyped that it would be, just asinine to think of a buy. I think that he's, kind of well positioned. So I mean, not too crazy.
And if you got time, go watch his high school games. I mean, he is like like you could tell he's going to the NBA like as a high school. Like he was just, oh my goodness, just filthy. Oh my.
Yeah, then we'll talk about one last little NBA player before we get an NFL player in here, and that is Jamal Murray. Obviously, I mean, we had this in the list even before tonight's game, but after a Game 7 win against the Clippers, going to be looking pretty good. And obviously, he kind of had his game of the series tonight. So, I mean, in terms of buying or selling, do you have any? Did you buy any before?
I did. I did. This is my list. Apparently, I did this. This is just, again, to gas myself up. Look at me. I'm big brained. Yeah. I'll show you the screenshots of my selling. I sold these after the Jazz. I still have a couple. I have a couple optics laying around, and I found another one tonight just laying around while digging through cards. So I'll probably sell a couple more. But I mean, I think he's really, really, really good and really exciting. So, and I think the Nuggets have an outside chance. I'd give them like a good solid 18% chance to win the championship. Out of all the teams, they're exciting. So, but I'm gonna sell. It's
tough decision. Letting your babies go.
It's okay. It's like $50. I paid like 50 cents. It's exciting.
Jeez. Man, that is what it is, though. You just gotta. I mean, there's so many underrated talents just everywhere. You gotta find them relative to the market, and yeah, I mean, once he starts popping off like that, going for 50 a game throughout the Jazz series, basically like every other game, it's definitely warranted a good little bump up. But yeah, I'd probably be selling, along the lines of, I guess, Tyler Hero. I'm not as actually, I mean. Tyler Hero is a little different because obviously he's not going to play as big of a role. But while the Heat have a better shot of winning it, in my opinion, I think Denver has lesser of a shot. But Jamal obviously plays a much bigger role on that team. So I don't know. I mean, just the absolute bonanza of hype that's been going on for him throughout these playoffs, I'd find it really, really hard to be buying now. So
Yeah.
It's just a
if
rinse
you
and
really
repeat,
believe in
but
Jamal Murray and you really want to spend your money, I would, again, just hedge on the bet that they're going to lose. And
yeah, and maybe if you want to, if you're a betting guy, I'm sure you can get 4-1 or 5-1 odds on Denver winning this series, and then you probably get at least better than 50%. Like you'll get twice your money back on a next bet. So if you really, really believe in them and you want to hedge it, you could essentially get like 8-1, 10-1 on whatever you bet on them. So if you want to hedge, I mean, his cards aren't going to go up 10x if they win a championship.
Yeah.
So hedge it that way. I think that's probably the way to go. As a little aside.
Yeah, and if they do win, if they lose, it's like, oh well, I get to buy Jamal Murray's.
Yeah.
If they win, it's like, oh well, I can take this money and
buy some Jamals, I guess, because 10x. I mean, So I definitely think that would be the strategy to go about it, because I don't think that there's the same potential, if he already hit big, because he's already hit big. I don't
Yeah,
know how much more
he blew up already. I don't think I could not imagine it going up more, like, unless he won more championships over time, that's going to be a slow, that's going to be, like you said, like a slow boil, and there's going to be ups and downs in that. So if you think that's what he's going to do, you just wait, because there's going to be plenty of times for you to buy Jamal Murray.
Yeah, and then going from one Murray to another, we'll end off the Rising Stars list with a little Kyler Murray. Obviously had a sick week this week, and with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins and just beating the Niners, people are going to be obviously pretty pumped. Would you be buying, selling, or holding if you were? Are you?
I sold. You
go.
Named. I had or sold every single person you named on this list this week. So
there we go. You're in early on all these rising stocks.
Yeah. I sold Kyler Murray though. I was out on football QBs. Again, like, just as it was kind of going up, I was like, okay, there's great money.
Yeah.
I'm not a Kyler Murray believer, to be honest. So
yeah, I'll talk a little more about him later, but I would probably be in the same ballpark. It's nice. I'd love to see it, but
he's fun, and I get why he's very, very likable. So
yeah,
no hate or anything. It's just I don't see it as much as when you
the
talk,
price
like,
point's a bit much.
It's like, I think that Cam Newton has a way better chance of winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
In any time with the Patriots or wherever he's at than Kyler Murray does with the Cardinals.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He's in a stacked division, so like.
Yeah, you got the 49ers to go through and the Seahawks. Good luck.
Yeah, and the Rams, and it's
I think all three of those teams have
Yeah, they could easily be the fourth best team in that division, and that's not to say that they're bad, but that's just the circumstances they are in. So. Yeah, I definitely feel like, you could, if you really believed in him, you could buy him back next year. You could buy him back during the offseason. You could buy him back after an injury. There's just so many other times that you could buy than right now. So I would
stay
agree
away
on a sell. Yeah, big facts.
Don't listen to your heart. Listen to your wallet.
Exactly. All right, so taking back, I guess, another look into the past. We like to do a nice little look into the past as far as card prices are concerned, usually comparing a modern player's card to a past player's card. But we like to, kind of be a little malleable with this entire thing and change it up every now and then for some good fun. And since we are going into the off season soon with the NBA, figured, people look at the graphs, they start to see a little dip after the season's over, but how far can they drop? How far have they come? That's kind of what you need to have an idea of, because you have no idea how far they can drop until you know where they've been recently. So we'll take a look at card prices at the beginning of November and compare them to where they are now in early September, so about 10 months later. And we'll start with KD Topps Chrome, someone that hasn't even played a lick, hasn't done anything, so probably a good barometer as far as the market at large. Yeah, just absolute.
Oh, sorry. Was that a snake somewhere?
Just slithering on through beneath your seat. But yeah, a nice little Topps Chrome PSA 10. Back 10 months ago, it was worth $400, and now is about $4,500, and was $7,500 at the peak. I don't know why these things peak mid playoffs, but I guess it's like I said, a barometer as far as the market as a whole, but. It's pretty crazy, man. I mean, obviously cards have been soaring, but to see something be 11x what it was, and, it definitely makes you a little weary as far as how far it could fall, I'd imagine.
I think this card could easily be $1,400, $1,300, $1,200, $800 by the end of this. I don't know. I'm a big KD hater, though.
That's true. Can vouch. Not a huge fan.
So I think that has something to do with it, but I mean... I sold like all of my KD rookies also too during that peak. That was fantastic. Thank you, Gary V, for all that hype. That was a blast.
Throwing out the black Topps cards.
Yeah,
is that what he was?
Yeah, all those
pumping?
Topps rookies. That was fantastic. I made a ton of money that week. That was awesome.
That was like the last time he posted uncensored pictures of them. You got the last little hope. But I mean. I definitely agree. It's, and that's what this entire list is really to show. Just, these cards have gone up insane amounts. Like this is probably the biggest example of an increase, but still, going up from $400 to $7,500, but then obviously falling back down to $4,500. It's still.
He's just not that likable of a player.
Yeah, and I don't think long term he has the same, like Kobe,
power.
like LeBron, like he's gonna be over Steph. I mean, he's gonna be overshadowed by a lot of people in this generation.
I like people hedging that he's gonna win another ring. Like I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
Or even another scoring title when he got hurt the way he did, and James Harden's gonna get the free throws that he gets. Like, I don't think he wins another scoring title. I don't think he wins another MVP. Like, I don't know how well the team's going to do with Kyrie and him being as soft as they are. I think that
they have a lot of mental fortitude.
Do they even stay together a full season? Like, honestly, trade deadline happens, I would not be surprised if Kyrie or KD bounced. Like, remember the Cavs team that had, like, Isaiah Thomas, Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James for, like, a week? Like, I could see this happen. Like, I could see that happening. Like, I don't know. It's just, I mean, obviously, KD is an insanely good player and one of the best scorers. Like, he has, like, 3 or 4 scoring titles, like, super early in his career. But in the same light, like, he was known in Oklahoma City as Mr. Irreliable. Like, not clutch in those moments. And you could be like,
so to think he's
finals
going to take
MVPs,
the East.
his finals MVPs. Yeah, well, when you're standing on the back of a 73-9 team that had won a championship and has the only ever unanimous MVP in the history of the NBA, I mean, it's pretty easy to be clutch when you know that's right there.
Yeah, that's
that's your safety blanket at all times. I have the two best shooters in NBA history right there to bail me out. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we've talked about Clay cards for a while. You compare that to KD cards. It's like Clay's a part of a dynasty and like will be remembered
well loved
a ton. Yeah, and well liked in a bigger market, which I think down the road definitely makes it. I mean, how many fucking. I don't like to swear too much, but I just did because I feel passionate. But like, how many California kids, are sitting here watching Steph and Clay just kill it? Like, they'll have a ton of money eventually, and I don't think they'll be hunting KD Topps Chrome.
Guy that was there for 2 years, to literally win the championship and go, yeah, I'm the best player.
Yeah, and then get salty on his way out. He's like, why wasn't I loved more? It's like, what do you expect, my man?
You literally just stand on the shoulders of that team. Go, see, I won the Finals MVP. I'm better. By the way, Under Armour's trash. Nike rocks. Really? That's
yeah.
Then you get on Twitter like an hour later after winning a championship, like being like, no, I am validated. I'm the best. Be quiet.
Twitter haters can take that and shove it right there. But yeah, I mean, as far as KD, I think it's pretty well known how we feel. Moving on to a nice little youngster in Luka, obviously shown a ton throughout the playoffs and the latter part of the year. So people are, of course, big hyped here. At least someone that's been doing something. So that jump seems more justifiable. But his PSA 10 base in November was 130, and now is the 10 times that at 1,300, and it hit as high as 2,000 whenever he was going off against the Clippers. So, again, I mean, how far is that dip? Who knows? It's just a crapshoot. That's why I don't really recommend people buy until they see a steady few weeks, maybe a month. Like, you need to know. It's scary, man.
I definitely think it can hit those peaks again, but yeah, obviously, like, you want to mitigate risk as much as you can. And like Luka's again, a guy that's so exciting. I mean, just electric. I mean, you saw the visceral reaction on Twitter and all the analysts on ESPN and all the reporters and obviously he's a stud. Like, I haven't seen a player that young be so good like since LeBron. Just step in the league, be that league ready. Like him, I guess, and KD was pretty league ready too, but Luka could be
nothing to this extent.
Yeah,
carrying a team.
Luka's second year goes to the playoffs. If Porzingis doesn't get hurt, I personally think they win that series.
They probably win the Denver series.
Yeah, we could have been seeing the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals, like.
Yeah, and then, if he beat LeBron, like, fucking floodgates just go. That'd just be nuts, man.
I legit think it's only a matter of time before this kid wins a championship. So, obviously, we've talked about it before on the buy, but yeah, obviously, like, I think they could, hit $600, $700, $800 maybe?
Yeah, I think, because once, and this is, I'm not as well versed in this market, but in most markets, once a card, like, hits a key number, once something hits a key number, there's kind of a quick drop off after that because people get a little scared. So, once it drops below 1,000, people will be like, oh man, well, I didn't think this was going to happen. How far could it go? I don't know. So they sell for a little bit. Maybe it drops, 800. And then once you start to see that climb, it keeps climbing. And kind of the reverse happens. Whenever something goes above 1,000, people are like, all right, well, that's kind of a ceiling barrier. Yeah, that's it's the exact thing. People are kind of weird, so you got to anticipate that as well. So I definitely believe that you could see a good drop there, another 50% decrease, just because cards are eyeballs, like we say. At the end of the day, like when you got to sit out and sit on cards for 4 months. 3 months, people, you got things to spend money on. Maybe other cards, maybe real life stuff. So I could definitely see some sales going. And now on to the only player in this list that's actually still in the playoffs is the LeBron Topps Chrome PSA 10. As far as where it was in November, these actually proportionally haven't gone up as much, but I feel like the demand was definitely there back then. So maybe that's a bit of the reason why. And especially once you start getting to these high numbers, you got to hope for some deep pockets to start buying them, so it's a little tougher. But the LeBron Topps Chrome PSA 10 went from 2,000 in November to all the way to 15,000 at its peak, and now has since gone down to 11,000, which is definitely a good indicator that the market, is starting to lose some hype, even if you still have a card that's a part of the market. But what do you think overall about where this card's gone so far, and what would you agree with that kind of them not like the KD and Lucas jumped 10x each, almost 15x, while LeBron's went like 5 to 7x depending on where you're at.
It just didn't make that much sense. Obviously, like, a crazy demand came in, and obviously, like, LeBron being such a important cultural figure out and basketball icon throughout, the what now, like how many years has been in the league? 16, 17?
Yeah.
I mean, for just being, the face or one of the faces of the NBA for that long, like it makes sense. This is one to add to your collection in any fashion. It's $15,000. Obviously, this is PSA 10, so we are talking at a bit of a premium. It's not crazy, but man, it was a lot. I feel like this is going to keep going down, even if they win a championship. I just think that was hype as hype can be. Michael Jordan's card just hit that insane number that it hit, and everybody,
so people climbing on this.
Exactly, and people were like, oh, well, if Michael Jordan could be worth that, well, what can LeBron's be worth at some point? And then people realizing, in that nice of a grade, there's just more population of those LeBrons than there are of those MJs. And, we talk about, even the LeBron to Luka to Zion, like how much more Zion in 10s than there are of Luka in 10s than there are of, LeBron in 10s to how much there are of Michael Jordan in 10s.
You just keep going back.
Yeah, just the insane, supply versus demand, how small it is. I think
and MJ was like a cultural icon, obviously. Like LeBron
everybody.
Isn't that,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, LeBron is huge, but, Michael Jordan
is that crazy.
Is ridiculous, His sneaker shoe brand, just, like his personal branding is, insane. And, while LeBron is awesome, Michael Jordan made basketball. The way Tiger Woods made golf. It's that's hard to do, and
got to replicate it to get the same results. And definitely don't think that's happened with LeBron yet. So I agree, that's probably why they haven't jumped up as much. And like you were saying with the pop counts, I was talking about like my experience looking up these prices. I went to like PWCC because I wanted some historical, data, and that's a nice spot to go to because you can see all their auctions and whatnot. Maybe they're shilled sometimes, but if you look at enough, you'll be fine. Nonetheless, whenever I went to the end of 2019 and I had to go back 2 months, just 2 months to see what the prices were at the beginning of November for like LeBron and Kobe, who's next on this list, it was only like a third of the way down the page is all I had to scroll for the PSA 10s. With Luka Prism 10s, I had to go through like 18 pages. So, I mean, it's tough. And especially now because everyone's sending something off to get graded as soon as they get a hit. Like back in the day, I remember looking at historical prices, like a PSA 10 LeBron refractor back in like the mid 2000s was like $200 to $300. So if you got a Topps Chrome, it's like,
why send it off?
Yeah, it's nice, but if it comes back as a 9, it's worth $30-$50. It's like, you just sit on it and hold it. So
I think that's a really important thing to talk about too. Is we've seen this boom in PSA, and for the longest time, I almost feel that there was a stigma of grading cards. Like a lot of people in the hobby for like in those 2010s thought it was kind of like a hoax, like a scam, like not really important or needed. Like real collectors don't send your cards off to get graded. They're you can just keep them in your collection. You're only doing that to sell your cards. That's kind of scummy. I think that was definitely the perception. And not only that, like you didn't like to get the return on your investment to be maximized. You did not have to send your card off to get graded. Like that was not needed. And like and it gained popularity. And it came to the place where it is. And I think, we just kind of hit the peak of that this year of, there's, lots of new people in this hobby. They don't know how to grade their cards. They're not as educated. I need this card to be in that case to know that, that card is actually that nice. So I think that, there's definitely a big shift in that. Because, back in, the dead era of card collecting, everybody knew how to grade cards or, or at least maybe they perceived to think that everybody knew how to grade cards better. So I definitely think that's a new thing, and PSA really hit its popularity over this COVID season. Like, I think, you know, it really, obviously by the submissions, it's really coming into its own as this is a standard for how to sell, you know, grade, and this is the safest way to make a transaction across the internet. So,
yeah, it definitely could be entering like the slabbed era. You know how there's, I mean,
definitely
like junk wax obviously is greatly talked about, but you might just have junk slabs eventually. Like definitely a lot of people will, because they just grade so many rookies that are just unproven. Even if you're grading cards of established players, there's no guarantee that their prices even hold enough to be worth grading in some cases. So then to be grading almost every rookie card that you see, like I see PSA subs where it's like 200 like Donruss cards of, you know, basketball players, which is cool, you know, send them off. And if you're going to resell, I kind of understand it, but like, you know, whoever's buying at the end of the day, everyone's going to be sitting on tons of just dead rookies.
Think about how many Zions were sent off this year, and like you said, just like everybody else, more so. Like all you have to do is look at the PSA. If you go to 2015 to 2020, you will see a crazy disparity of the amount of stuff sent off. Mm-hmm. And you know, like exactly like you could go into a card shop 5 years from now, and maybe you can pick up PSA cards for $2-3 of, you know, or maybe even less, like $1, just of like, you know, say Tyler Hero doesn't pan out, like you will be seeing a lot of his PSA 10s for nothing. So just giving them away essentially. Need to free up some space. But yeah, as far as the last guy, you know, following the same vein, like I said, Kobe, again, very low pop compared to this. And another thing about the pop is you're obviously going to have a lot higher grades of now because they just get sent off so quick. So like that's just it's just quite another reason to be a little weary on paying just an extreme for 10s and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Kobe's price has actually basically done the same thing. PSA 10 Topps Chrome, they were $2,000 just like LeBron's were in November, and then they've jumped. Now they're $10,000 and peaked to $15,000. So honestly, about the same exact thing as LeBron. So I find it a little interesting that, you know, I mean, I guess we did have, you know, the sad story in January, February, so I guess that could have helped the card prices, which is obviously a little morbid, but that's just how it works. People are sentimental, so I fully understand. But, you know, to follow the same price trajectory and not have had any potential in terms of winning more, you know, it is a little strange. But I guess I kind of get it with the circumstances, so it's a little odd. I think that was exciting. I think that, like, the Kobe prices definitely helped the card market as a whole, and I haven't really heard this take, but I think that was a big part, because for not people in the 90s, like all of their cards were deemed as worthless for like 15 years, and then and then finally Kobe rookies were started to be valuable, and especially those graded 10s. And you know, again, people back in the 90s definitely weren't grading cards. You know, my dad, who was, you know, big into it, who has, you know, I have like probably like 30 Kobe rookies because of that. You know, none of those were graded, obviously. And, you know, even if you kept them in binders or in, you know, penny sleeves, like they're not in perfect shape after sitting, you know, wherever they sat for 20 years. So I think those like Kobe 10s do make a lot of sense. And I also think that plus The Last Dance plus, you know, that record MJ sale, you know, and then plus the bubble, plus the NBA coming back, all like those factors, like was like the perfect storm for card prices to boom the way that they did. And like now, kind of like thinking about it, looking back, like it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, it is crazy all the factors that had to go into it, and obviously, you know, like with every card that we're kind of talking about, you just wait a little bit, buy on a dip. But I definitely, I mean, after looking at this, the most standout thing to me was just pop counts, man. I mean, you know, you can look at them and sit there all day, but they're honestly one of the most important things when you're buying sports cards. I think people just look at comps of players, and they just don't look at comps of, you know, pop counts, because at the end of the day, you know, demand's what matters, and supply then is also going to matter a ton. And like, I just don't think people are as prepared for that as they should be. They just buy off of comps with other players instead of comps with pop counts, and it's kind of nutty, honestly.
I think the only disclaimer is when we're talking about you know, the pop counts, we're looking at the most popular cards of like an era. So like if you look at a card and it's like, oh, there's only a pop count of 3, but it's like the 5th year card of some player, it's probably just because, well, it's not worth that to get graded. So don't be thinking that's rare. Obviously, like I've seen a good old sports card investor. There was a dude who's like, this 2018 Kevin Durant, it's got a pop count of like 5. Well, yeah, because nobody cared to grade it. Like, not that there's not plenty of those cards out there in the world. It's just, it's not worth grading. So, and if you do just buy that card raw, it's probably going to be in really nice shape, or buy like 3 for way less than you pay for a 10, and then send all 3 off. And then, maybe you get back a 10 and it's still way cheaper. So
you're doing a bad thing though. You double the pop count,
Oh yeah.
Went from 3 to 6. Yes, you got to send them off one at a time.
Slowly.
Just leak them into the market. But yeah, shout out to Geoff's people. He showed we just call him that for fun, I guess. But it's a little sports card investor. He had like a bunch of his employees come on and show their cards, and honestly, that shined a light on the normies. It feels like I'm relatively new, but I feel like at the end of the day, I'm not. I don't know how these people make such simple mistakes like that, like thinking that low pop counts means rare cards. It's so strange. Man.
That's a correlation, but it doesn't. It's a. Wait. What's the math terms? The
causation and correlation.
Causation and correlation. Yeah. It's like,
two different things. You got to distinguish them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also again, shout out to Geoff, because he thinks that there isn't an off season, but we're already seeing the off season. This is it. The season isn't even over, and these cards off their peak have dipped, 50-40%. So where they can go from here, who knows?
We like to take our shots. Again,
yeah,
we like
he does great things. We like him, but
he's in his first.
Like with everyone,
he is in his first couple years of collecting since way back when. He's learning just as he's making his videos, which isn't a bad thing by any means. But I wouldn't take his stuff as gospel truth. As a person who's seen the card market since the early 2000s, and Alec, who's about as sweaty into the numbers as it gets.
Yeah, I'm newer, but I dig. I do my digging.
Exactly. His digging makes up for a lot.
We just try to be rough on. He's not self-deprecating enough. We saw that video of his biggest mistake, and it was selling Lucas for like 4x and not like 15x. It's like, oh my dude, come on.
Yeah.
You can laugh at yourself every now and then. It's fine, and we'll still buy your program. I'm not, but I'm sure people will, and we'll still watch your videos. It's cool. Just
have a
little more fun with it.
In 2012, when I was a kid, I would put as much money as I could on Robert Griffin III. I still to this day I use a Robert Griffin III that I paid a lot of money for, and I have it in a nice little case, and I use it as my cup holder. As I use it as my coaster, just as a little reminder. So everybody's prone to mistakes. You're not always going to hit a home run, but you can hit a lot more. Again, if you just don't buy off the hype. I was buying off the hype. Robert Griffin III. I was very excited. So
that hits deep. It happens to the best of us, though. In terms of, maybe people are buying off the hype or cards we're not necessarily fond of right now. We're going to go on over to our Out for Blood segment. Gotta...
We probably started it there, honestly.
Yeah, that was, a nice little prelude into what we're getting into. But we do end off the pod on a good note, so it's fine. We gotta throw a little shade. So in terms of who I'd be throwing shade at, I'm going to start off with Kyler Murray buyers. Obviously,
you did say you were going to talk about this.
Yeah, I did. I mean, like with everything, and like you've been talking about, it's not a coincidence that you're mentioning buying these cards like 3 months before they peak, because, you just got to have some sight ahead of you.
Foresight,
some foresight. That's what I'm looking for. You gotta look ahead and see what's coming. And if you're buying now, you're doing none of that, because if you actually believed in Kyler Murray, you could have got him all throughout the summer up until a month ago for extremely cheap prices. And even on the climb before the season, you still could have entered somewhere in there and still made money. And now, especially after a good week one, it's like, man, I saw Russell Wilson prices that were cheaper than these Prism prices for Kyler. And it's like, Russell Wilson's proven, won a Super Bowl, stayed not injured, isn't, and that's not anything we're going to having guarantee of. So maybe if you're looking for a flip, I might not be hating on that. If you're looking for an investment longer term, I definitely think there are just so many better plays, and I hope you find some foresight in the future. Just it's nothing to be ashamed of. You can, and maybe you make some money off it too. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but there are just better places to be, and that's kind of where we are with this segment. It's not necessarily saying you're doing the wrong thing, probably just not the most optimal. And that's where I'm at with Kyler. So,
I'm going to double down. My out for blood was those buying any rookies or football right now. What are you doing? I mean, come on. Like, I get it. I'm just super as excited as you can be about football being back. But what the heck are you doing? Like, you could, like just like Alex said, like, you could have done this months ago. Like I was. Dude, like, I was picking up Tyreek Hill numbered rookie cards. I love Tyreek Hill. Like, Tyreek Hill is so fun to watch, in my opinion. Again, me being close to Kansas City, it's not a far drive to go watch him just tear up the league. He's a lot cheaper than Patrick Mahomes, who had already bought before. But I was picking these cards up for, again, like $15, $20, like nice rookie cards. They're now like $200, $250 for those cards. And if you would have just bought in the off season, like, again, April, like March, April, May, like, you would have literally
even almost July,
even almost July, you could have had like all of your favorite players for like literally 10x cheaper than what they are at now. Like, obviously the card market has boomed, but even if you looked at the basketball market and were like, man, those prices got really expensive, all you would have had to do is take that and apply it, and even say, oh, well, maybe even if it just goes up a little bit, at least I'm getting in on these football cards now. Like, what are you doing? Like, do not buy football cards now. They will go down. Like, this is a very hype period, and do not buy cards now. Just wait.
Yeah.
Like, wait for it. Football. It's a game of attrition with availability. Players get hurt. Your favorite players get hurt. Teams do bad. Just wait a little bit. The only thing I could say, if you see packs of football cards in the store, like, that's obviously not a bad buy, because you're not buying them for online or resale prices. That's the only thing I'd be like, yeah, that's not crazy. Have fun, buy a few packs of cards, and knock yourself out. Obviously, like, don't buy tons, don't buy boxes. That's not a smart investment, but a few lottery tickets isn't gonna kill you. But yeah, do not be buying football cards right now. Why didn't you buy earlier? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm big in agreement, and just gonna keep destroying NFL cards, I guess.
Rip on them.
I'm going back to, more vintage, more so positional players. Like, the quarterback market long term has shown that it has the staying power, so I'm not as opposed to that. But if you're buying positional players kind of based off of the new trend of, being priced out of quarterbacks, so finding the next best thing, I think that's just, a small sample of time. That's what people are doing for the now. Will people be doing that in 10 years? I think it's a lot harder, because then you have to ask people in 10 to 20 years to go back 50, 60 years, and they're already going to have 50, 60 years of education that they'll need on quarterbacks alone. So then to branch that out to the current wide receivers, running backs, positional players, to do that then for 50 to 60 years in the past, I don't think there's going to be that same love. The older generation's already shown you that they don't value that the same way. And I think it's just people kind of working around being priced out, or, wanting to find, I guess, higher returns on investment than current cards can offer. And I don't think you're going to find that if you're going back and finding cards here and there of players you like, players that you legitimately think, and really this is it, you have to have a massive following, just a massive cult following or a massive following at large. If you don't have that, that you're not going to have the demand for these cards compared to the availability. So be very, very skeptical on vintage NFL cards that are just starting to gain traction. If they've had long-term traction, that's a different thing because obviously, they have the popularity and demand to be able to upkeep that. For other people, I'd definitely be a bit more sketch on. But yeah, I think that we're done roasting everyone in the NFL. So you can go on to your next one and give these people a break. I'm sorry.
Come on, guys. Dude, we just
tough, man.
We just made some dude cry.
We're just saying what needs to be said.
I really wanted this card. Why'd you buy it sooner? Come on, guy. Come on, my dude. All right, my second out for blood is those not starting to take a peek at basketball. Now is the time. You notice Alec and I starting to say the prices are starting to go down. Prices are starting to go down. That's because, again, we are entering in, we're getting close, probably a month out from, the time to start buying basketball, or maybe even now if some players have really tanked. Obviously we can't watch everything. Make your list of guys that you want, that, guys you liked in the playoffs or this year in the NBA. And, start watching them, the prices go down, and start, making yourself a little plan, a little, some tactics on how to buy these guys in the off season. There's going to be lots of chances, and, now's, a time where, you can start taking a peek and really starting to plan out. And then when next basketball season comes around, you can be really happy that you just have this horde of basketball cards of players that you're really excited about, and you're not buying in the premium, but you're buying, under market value of what you think those cards are going to go for, and you're going to make money, and you're going to have a lot of fun watching the NBA season. So now is the time to, start paying attention, make your list of guys that you're really targeting, and, be really thoughtful about this, and, you're going to be able to profit, and again, just get the cards that you want for much less. You're going to be able to, if you would have bought that Luka for $2,000, and if you just would have waited 2 weeks to when it went to $1,300, that's $700 you could have spent somewhere else.
That's another half a Luka.
Yeah, exactly. You're halfway to a second Luka. So, timing is everything in this, and we're definitely starting to enter a good time. So have a plan, and, start watching. Don't just dive right into the football like we said. Don't waste your money there, because again, those prices are up. Go back into basketball. Now's the time.
Yeah, and as far as my last out for blood, I don't really need to harp on it too much because we kind of did it earlier. As far as people that are playing right now, that's where I would avoid in terms of basketball. But like you said, I mean, Luka, players that have already kind of gone out, and we've seen that big dip. Wait for the stabilization and then buy. But don't be buying in on people you think could win a championship now, because like I've said in the past, and I always say, championships don't mean as much typically as you would imagine they do. Because at the end of the day, tons of people throughout history have won a championship. There's one every year. There's 10 dudes on every basketball team that, you could name that have won that championship as well. And that does not mean that their cards are worth something just because they won a ring. Only in the short term do people think that. And so long term, you're going to have tons of different opportunities to buy. So people that are still in, I'd be weary of. People that are out will probably have the bounce back, I'd imagine, a little sooner. So, just keep an eye out, be ready. And yeah, like Caleb said, you got to be planning ahead. So kind of map out, where you're thinking their prices probably pick back up, build yourself a little monthly sheet of what you're looking at, and just, it's easy to say, and it's something you should be doing. Just always be looking at prices and comps and seeing what the market as a whole is doing. You just got knowledge is power, knowledge is money. It's everything. So just, be educated, try to get down on, the lower prices. And like we saw with football, and with basketball throughout the year, they go up. Well, they have, and you can't expect this in the future, but they have gone up, like football 5x, basketball 10x. So if you're buying before the season, it's logical. That's when you do it. That's where the eyeballs aren't. So you got to be there.
Exactly. And again, it's tough because you want to buy those rookie players that you really like, but you just gotta know, man, those prices aren't gonna be there the next year. It's gonna cool off. It's gonna calm down, And, even though Ja Morant won, Rookie of the Year, his card prices are already down, and they're going to continue to go down. But if you really like him, guess what? You're going to be able to buy him in a couple months for probably, even less money. And so, like, there's plenty of opportunities.
And you could be making money on that money during that time, too. You could be doing something else, and then you'd be making more money on your money, and then you come back and buy something on the cheap, and then it's even that much more worth it. So,
and if you get on this healthy rotation of, me, I'm going to be selling these football cards, throughout here, and I'm going to be taking that money, and I'm going to be putting it into basketball. And then when basketball rolls around, I will be taking that money, and I'll be putting in some of it back into, football. And it's this, and then I'll also continuously be stacking soccer. And also
soccer and Pokemon,
and then some Pokemon cards on the side, just as soccer is that's the big boom. That's
we're waiting World Cups on that. That's more of a longer play, just like Pokemon,
Yeah, exactly. And
kind of have your quick flips with basketball and football, and then your longer plays.
Exactly, and and again, it's a nice thing. Like for me, I hoard Steph Curry, and I'm just never gonna sell him, and and you can have that, it's fun. Like, again, Larry Bird, you can pick up that vintage stuff. It's all, and you can, again, use those profits to make more money. You're going to be playing with house money of, getting to collect the cards that you want, with also making money to buy other cards to sell and keep cards. So it's a nice, healthy thing that you can do, even if the card market doesn't crazy boom like it has, if you just think through it carefully and, resist the urge to buy when it's the most fun, it's going to really work out for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So we kind of ended that on a happy note. Obviously, it's not the happiest in terms, it's tough because you wanna hold the cards during the fun time, but that's when everyone wants to hold the cards. Everyone would love to be in on it. So, you just have a good collection of guys that you'll hold for a while and you can always root for, and then you got kind of more of your flipping type cards that are meant to help you out a little bit. So just got to strike that balance. It's a little difficult and obviously can be tough sometimes parting with cards, but at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for you, and it definitely seems like the play for both of us, and that's what we've enjoyed so far. So going from, I guess that was a nice little happy ending of the Out for Blood segment. We'll move on to our weekly picks. We got a few here total.
Spending money.
Spending money.
I thought we don't do that.
Yeah, I thought we only sold. No, there's still buying opportunities.
Yeah, there's still tons of fun. Don't worry, those endorphins are still, you get those.
Yeah, we still allow ourselves to buy a little bit. We've been buying less lately, so not as many picks here. But personally, as far as one thing that I'd be in on is definitely some Soccer Prism. It kind of had a very strange bump up during Champions League, but I mean it isn't really that strange because all of the newer people are gonna flow into Prism because that's just what they do at this point. I mean that's
True.
proven, and maybe if I don't believe in it long term, I can hedge it with stickers in soccer, which I definitely think's a play. But as far as the shorter term play, soccer's gonna be kicking back up. We're gonna have international stuff going on. It's just gonna be in the light for so long, and the only thing it's gonna have to go up against for a while is football, as far as American eyeballs are concerned. And there's not even that much college football, like half as much. Maybe that'll be coming back, hopefully. As Big Ten fans, we cross our fingers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people are going to have tons of time on Saturdays and during the week to be able to watch more and more soccer, and they're going to flow right into Prism. So if you got guys that you want to get, whether it be their World Cup card, whether it be their Euro card or their English Premier League cards, I mean, there's so many opportunities there, and it's so cheap. It's so affordable relative to, basketball, which there's so much more pop of, just immensely more pop.
Yeah.
And sure, card collecting isn't as big across the world, but long term, and maybe even in the short term, I think things spread. Like what we've seen with social media, and like, you've seen on TikTok, and just, people are pumping cards. And so to think that this won't trickle over to other countries, I feel like it's a bit absurd. I definitely think it's going to get bigger there, and just with them being exposed to it more and seeing it, even if it isn't the norm now, I mean, it wasn't the norm for a lot of people, obviously, with these card prices and what we've seen. So I think potential's there. I think if you have soccer players you like, it's definitely the way to go. Personally, Mohamed Salah and Mane as well for Liverpool, I think, are both great shouts because they're just going to be scoring a ton of goals in the Prem, where most American eyeballs will be. But, I mean, there are so many more people I just don't want to get into right now. But, I mean, there's so much potential. And, I mean, I think with soccer cards across the board. So that's my first pick of the week.
And the fun thing, again, about soccer is there's so many leagues. There's so much of a bigger pool of fun players. You know, like, it's great because unlike
good for scouting, too.
Yeah, exactly. Unlike, the NBA where there is just one set best league in the world. That's the reason there is the Champions League, is because there's a bunch of good different soccer leagues, and that's the only way to figure it out. So I think that's something really cool and unique to soccer. And
transfer rumors are big, too. Going from small leagues to big ones. I mean, you can get in early on that. It's huge.
Imagine if MLS got to a big enough place where they could be in Champions League. Could you imagine? That'd be so fun. But anyway. I couldn't agree more.
We could do our own North America, South America one, but that wouldn't be as fun.
No, that would not.
Shake my head.
Yeah, I numbered cards. We say it a lot. Alec and I say it a lot, but I had picked up just a ton of, football players before the season. I picked up a bunch of numbered cards. They're just super fun, and again, the ones numbered to 100 or less, those are exciting and really hard to pull. Even in hobby boxes, you're not pulling too many of those in a box. And if you're getting, Hall of Fame players, I think they're really undervalued and underrated, even if it is in later seasons for those pros. I think, they're undervalued and worth a lot, I think can be worth a lot. And something that if you do grade are good flips as well to be worth, higher dollar amounts. So I'm always a big fan of those cheap numbered cards, especially in those low numbers 10, 20, 50. Those are I always think are great gets, especially in big sets like Topps or Topps Chrome that are really popular. I think those even better.
Yeah, big agree. I mean, I'm always with soccer. That's where I mostly spend my time. But I'm always trying to grab. I mean, just so many numbered cards. They're hard. I mean, obviously hard to find. And then collecting aspect, if it's a longer term hold, and even if it's a shorter term hold, if it's a shorter term hold, you have a bigger share of the market, obviously, so you have more, of an influence as far as what that card can be worth. And if you're holding it longer term, I think that the base card, as much as we're in the Prism boom, we're also in the base card boom, where people just base cards because it's more liquid, and it's that's cool, but
it's
as
easier
far as
to know the price.
Yeah, it's I mean, PSA 10 base, I know it's sold and bought every day, but that's the point, because it's not that crazy. It's not that cool for collecting. It's just, it's an asset that you can use, I guess, to try to have a good metric as far as where it's at. But man, I just, from a collecting standpoint and maybe even a flipping standpoint, I love numbered cards, so I'm all with you there. I'm just trying to stock up whenever I can find them. I'm big hunting out here on the bay, but big agreement there. And as far as the last little weekly pick, I'm going to throw out a nice little American soccer player, because that's what we're doing right here. Just soccer players all over. But I think it is people's last chance to get in on Pulisic for a good price, unless he gets injured. Fingers crossed again. But and then, man, soccer's so terrifying with the injuries, but. Man, he was on an absolute tear, obviously, for Chelsea whenever they came back to the Prem after the long hiatus. And at this point, like we said earlier, he's got the number 10 shirt. He looks like he's going to be a mainstay of Chelsea for a while going forward, hopefully. And in addition to that, their attacking presence is just through the roof with all the transfer they've made. I mean, they're looking like a real threat. They didn't look insane in their first week performance, but still a 3-1 win. I mean, against anyone, even if it's not the best competition in the league, you'll take it. And as far as Pulisic prices, like you've said, you're all in on this. You love Pulisic.
Give me.
Yeah, just a big fan all around. And I mean, when you compare his prices to Gio Reyna, like I've been saying, I love Reyna. I think he's sick, but when his Topps Chrome are worth more than Christian Pulisic's Select, which I'm sure a lot less count, it's and obviously Pulisic's proven himself and is going to be the man for the U.S. team for a good while going forward.
And maybe Chelsea.
Yeah,
Probably Chelsea. I mean, again, when he came back, most of those soccer analysts were saying Pulisic was the best player in the Premier League after the hiatus. Like,
yeah,
or arguably the best. Like, because Salah wasn't good after the restart or any of Liverpool, and Pulisic was absolutely on fire. Like,
I mean, it's hard, obviously, to expect him to keep that up. But even then, I mean, even if he can give us a good fraction of that, like, it's just insane.
Or if he can stay healthy for a whole season to put up a nice amount of goals to be, in the top 10 goal leaders for the Premier League. Like, woo.
Yeah, it'd be nuts. And, I'll throw in a little side note. We're always, the point is, like, U.S. men's national team, there's 11 spots. There's 5 attackers, essentially. Like, 3 attackers, couple midfielder attackers. But it's like, man, that's such a condensed amount of people to have eyeballs go on to. And with the less pop, like, it's just... Oh man, it's a formula that we are quite prepared for what the results could be. But yeah, Pulisic and then Weah and Sargent on the side. But I'm just throwing them in there for fun.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, if Pulisic is really one of the best players in the Premier League, and like he brings U.S. soccer into a whole new like level of excitement, especially with the card market being crazier than it ever has been in the last like 20 years, like the most exciting it's been in the last 20 years. Again, it could just be one of those perfect storms for soccer cards. And again, there isn't a lot. And like Alex said, there's only so many spots. It's like the NBA, except instead of 32 teams, there's only one team that the United States cares about, and that's the U.S. men's national team. And there's only really 5 spots for scorers. And Pulisic is the best player, and it's pricey, but you compare that to the best NBA player like LeBron James rookie cards, or you compare that to the best football player in like, Tom Brady rookie cards, or, Patrick Mahomes rookie cards. Like, it's not even close. It's so cheap, and it feels like a locker guarantee. And just with what I saw and everybody else who watches soccer saw last year, like just on his final stretch of what he did with Chelsea, and they were probably going to win the FA Cup before he gets hurt. Like in the biggest moment, he scores a goal and was on the run to score a second until he gets hurt. Like, it's like painfully obvious that he's a stud, and they gave him the 10. Like, which is like, that's like the captain's, that might as well give him the captain's patch. So
yeah, like looking here, Drew Lock, prisms, like $70 a piece. And then, so you could have 2 Drew Locks, which is just obviously a random, not proven quarterback in the NFL, which is a market that's newly emerging. Or compare that to what is currently the best player for the U.S. men's national team, and we'll have a World Cup in a year and a half. We're going to have tons of friendlies, like 10 qualifying games, and we're going to have all that in the next year. It's like,
and if you think the Champions League could spark some excitement.
Yeah, imagine the World Cup, man. Oh my! And that's when like, it's been said in the past so much, but that's when like a bunch of normies get into soccer, and I'm grateful. I'm not calling them normies out of spite. I'm purely thankful because it helps get people in. As much as like a FIFA video game has gotten me into it, like I just by experiencing more soccer, I just got like acquainted with it, and then I move on to tons of other things and actually become more of a fan, and that's what the World Cup can bring. And especially
if we're good too, like bring a good, like a fun generation of like kids who really like soccer, and we can continuously be good, and like it's exciting because we have a really good chance to be good at a sport that we've been historically horrible at, and it's the world's favorite sport. So it's just exciting because, like, talk about eyeballs. If the United States is good and it's fun to watch, and the rest of the world likes watching us, like, the sky is the literal limit for Christian Pulisic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly where I'm at. Couldn't have said it any better. And even if it doesn't go right for us, which, I mean, we're a young team, it probably won't go exactly right, but we'll show a ton of promise, hopefully, in the World Cup in 2022. And like I was going to say, even if that doesn't go well, 2026 World Cup, tri-hosted with America, Mexico, and Canada. If the card market is even still, a percent of what it is now, I can only imagine what's going to happen with that. And I mean, I think cards are a longer term play than most people probably do, because once you've already had all these people into it at this point, I can't see them all phasing out. I can see some people phasing more of the flipper
opening packs
lifestyle.
Is too much fun though, that tactile feeling, the fun, risk and fun of it. That's going to keep people in.
Yeah, and I think, kind of getting in on a tangent here, but I'm all for it. Ultimate Team game modes are just a great kind of filter into the hobby, because kids are basically growing up on those games, and they're losing money buying packs and not getting anything that they can hold for more than a year. They get one player that they can play in for one game, when eventually they won't be playing those games as much, and they're definitely going to want cards just to sit around and look at and remember their childhood and the stars that they adored. So I think cards are definitely a great play long term, and I think soccer has a ton of potential to build. So that's why we're, big stands, and that's why we took a good bit of time here at the end to go ahead and talk about it. But
this is your warning by Christian Pulisic.
We said it right now.
We told you so.
Oh, man, I can't wait, man. Oh God. It's going to be beautiful. But, that is going to be it for us today. About a 2-hour pod, which is by far our longest one. But we had a good time. We had a lot to talk about. So hopefully you guys enjoyed listening. If you did, make sure to leave a like if we're over on YouTube. If you're anywhere else, or even if you're on YouTube, make sure to check out our Instas in the description. We got me Cutting Edge Cards and Caleb over at Caleb_sports_cards. Bang, bang. Caleb, I'm guessing you had a good time. Nice little long discussion here for us.
Again, 2 hours felt like 2 minutes for those who stayed and listened. You guys are true G's, and go make all that money from our talks and buy some awesome cards that you like to look at. Because I'm staring at my Brett Favre rookie cards right now. The beautiful things on my desk.
Oh yeah, I got some stacks of cards lying around me too. It's just a great place to be. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, learned a little bit, and that's going to be it for us again with the 4th edition of Sports Card Corner, and hopefully you guys have a good one. Dab. Bang. Whew, I got to go pee.